of the really good ones. Not only did he ask good questions, but he listened intently to my responses and wasn't afraid to zing me back with a tough follow-up when my response fell short of fully addressing his question. He was clearly an excellent listener, and given my thing about it, I was equally impressed by his ferocious note-taking. At the end of the day, I asked one of the organizers if they happened to know the name of the young man who had so dominated the Q&A sessions. I had it in my mind that maybe he was someone who could work for us someday. Their response was one of the President of Ireland and UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. No matter what the subject, they both possess an incredible talent to tune in intensely to what's being said. I am a firm believer that the kind of wisdom such people manage to accumulate and dispense is directly attributable to their extraordinary listening skills. What they have said and done is what the history books will post as their legacy. But their greatest achievements are all down to what they were able to absorb by the simple act of listening. As I was interrupting, when you start trying to become a better listener, the first difference you'll notice is similar to how you see things after you've lost some weight. It's only once you manage to successfully drop 50 pounds that you are suddenly aware of all the people around you who could benefit from doing the same thing. Watching others, one of the first things you'll be aware of is that listening while keeping your mouth shut and saying nothing is a whole lot smarter than not listening, speaking up, and saying nothing. As opposed to really listening, a lot of people get totally hung up on frequently interjecting with comments and questions they mistakenly think make them look smart. This is seldom the case, as, on the usually flawed assumption that they know what the speaker is going to say, instead of listening, their focus shifts entirely to trying to formulate smart questions. In addition to the sheer rudeness of their constant interruptions, such people usually only succeed in looking foolish. It all comes back to note-taking. Rather than constantly interrupting the speaker with self-serving questions, it is a whole lot smarter and better table manners to note down comments and questions and save them for later, if indeed the issues haven't been covered by the time everyone gets to ask questions. A wonderful Mark Twain quote is, "There is nothing so annoying as having two people talking when you're busy interrupting." Interruptions, when speaking, are unfortunately a fact of life, and we have to learn to live with them. I must confess, however, that when I am trying to express my thoughts to a group of people, I find constant interruptions really exasperating. I have tremendous admiration for our CEO and President at Virgin Galactic, George Whiteside's uncanny ability to make any mention of XYZ. Does this mean you don't consider it relevant to your proposal? A more interesting spin on the unspoken word, however, can be recognizing when someone is deliberately avoiding an issue that they should really be addressing. In a one-on-one chat with a mid-level manager, for example, if they painstakingly steer the subject away from any mention whatsoever of their divisional vice president's role in a failed initiative, when they would seem to be a logical part of the dialogue, it may be enough to confirm concerns about there being a cover-up going on. An actual example of such a deafening silence was to be seen in the UK Department for Transport's bungled handling of Virgin Trains 2,000 people who require and enjoy the disciplines and order that stems from a highly regimented work environment, the kind of people who are governed by the book, and where the role of management is to enforce the rules and regularly throw the said heavy book at anyone who dares to deviate from the corporate dogma. Such people would not enjoy the Virgin way. Along with all the top people from almost every company in the group, I attended a day-long review of the first cut of the research, and as expected, it was filled with some utterly fascinating takes on the inner workings of what makes Virgin tick. Before going into this session, had anyone asked me, which they didn't,